Okay, so today I'm going to be showing you how to do a moss stitch neck warmer, and I'm using a 9mm crochet hook, and I'm using Karen Cake's yarn. You can use pretty much any yarn that you want to. It's a nice thing about this pattern, it's a neck warmer, so it's okay if the fit is a little more loose, a little more snug. It doesn't really matter, to be honest. It doesn't have to be that exact, but if you wanted to know exactly what I'm using, that's what I'm using. So we're going to begin with making our loop. So you're going to do a slip knot by wrapping the yarn around your finger and just cross it over like that. Lift up the piece that's underneath and push that top bit in behind just slightly and pull it to make that loop, and put your hook in. Okay, so the first step in this pattern is to make a chain of 45. So you're going to yarn over your hook and pull it through that loop, and that's one chain. So yarn over your hook, pull through the loop, yarn over and pull it through. So you're going to keep on doing that until you get to 45. So go ahead and pause the video, do a chain 45, and then come back. Okay, so now that you've finished your chain, you're going to secure it with your finger, holding it in place here, and you're going to run your thumb along to make sure that you don't twist your chain, because we're going to attach our very last chain to our very first one to create a ring, and we'll be working in the round for this project. Okay, so you're going to take your hook and put it in that very first chain that you made. So now on your hook you have the very first chain you made and the very last one, and we're going to connect them with a slip stitch. Let's make sure I have it in the right spot there. Oops. There we go. Yarn over and just pull through each loop that's on your hook. Okay, now you've created a ring, and you're going to chain one. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make a half double crochet in every single chain all the way around. Okay, so yarn over your hook, push it through the chain, yarn over your hook, and pull up a loop. And you should have 3 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. So that's one half double crochet. I'll do another one with you. Yarn over your hook, push it through the chain, yarn over your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over your hook, and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. So go ahead and do one half double crochet in every single chain all the way around, and by the time that you get to the end of that, you should have 45 stitches, and then come back. Okay, so now that you've finished your round 1, which is all half double crochets, you should have 45 stitches in total. And in most projects, you're going to hear them telling you, or read in the patterns, to close your rounds. We are not going to do that for this. We are going to avoid creating a seam. So we're going to work in a continuous round, and you'll understand why it was important to have an odd number of chains and an odd number of stitches, because we're going to be alternating as we go up in our rounds. I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. So round 2, what we're going to do to begin our continuous round is we're going to skip over this chain space. Remember when we connected our first chain to our last chain with a slip stitch, then we did a chain 1, then began our double crochet. So if we were closing these rounds, we would do that in this chain space. Because we're not going to close our rounds, we're going to just skip over that chain space and begin working in our first stitch. Now, to be honest, it's not really going to matter much specific, like you have the tail here that'll kind of indicate where your rounds are ending and beginning. Because we're alternating our stitches, and I'll show you what I mean in a minute, it's not really going to matter too much specifically where you've ended or begun, but if it's something that you really want to keep track of, you can flip the tail over there and use it as a stitch marker. Just put it between the last and the first stitch of your first round there. or you can use whatever stitch marker you want. Sometimes I use an extra little piece of scrap yarn, but you can do that and just start working over it. That way it kind of pokes out and you know where your round ended and where the new ones begin. So I'll do that right now just to give you a visual. And we're going to begin round 2 by doing a half double crochet in that first stitch. Okay. And we're going to do a slip stitch in the second. So you're going to push your hook through the stitch, yarn over, and pull it right through. In the next one, you're going to do a half double crochet. And in the following stitch, you're going to do a slip stitch. And you're going to continue alternating between half double crochet in one stitch, slip stitch in the next. Half double crochet, slip stitch. Half double crochet, slip stitch. Do that all the way around for your total of 45 stitches, and then come back when you get to that last stitch there. Okay, so now that you have gone all the way around and you're back at the start, you will be ending, you should have ended that round. For your stitch number 45 should have been a half double crochet, which would mean that if we continue our alternating, you're going to start the next round with a slip stitch. So this is why it was important to have an odd number of stitches, okay? And we'll be continuing in the round, and because we're continuing and we're not closing our rounds, it just makes it easier for you instead of having to remember, oh, because what we have to do now going forward is in every half double crochet from the previous round, we're going to do a slip stitch, and in every slip stitch we're doing a half double crochet. That's what's going to give you that really pretty effect. Right now what you're looking at is if your project was inside out. The way where you're going to see that really nice moss stitch is on the other side, okay? And so that's what I meant by we're going to be alternating as we go up in the rounds. But like I said, because we're not closing it, it just makes it easier. Basically, you just keep on going. So it doesn't really matter where your rounds end and begin. But if you want to keep track of specifics, then go ahead and put a stitch marker. But now you're just going to continue on. So we ended with a half double crochet. We're going to start with a slip stitch. And you're going to continue on alternating half double crochet, slip stitch, half double crochet, slip stitch. And you're just going to keep on following this very same pattern until you get to 31 rounds. And then come back and I'll show you how to finish off your project. Okay, so now that you've finished doing 31 rounds, you're going to go ahead and fasten it off with a slip stitch. So just finish on a slip stitch. And the way that you fasten it off is you just pull a little extra yarn through, take your scissors, cut it, and then just continue pulling through. Then what you're going to do before turning your project right side in, you're going to use a yarn needle. I'll show you a little trick of how to thread it. I actually learned that off a video one day. Okay. So you're going to use your yarn needle to just kind of weave your tail ends in and out of some of these stitches to hide it. And it just kind of, it also secures your yarn at that last stitch there. And just go ahead and continue to weave it in and out until the whole tail is hidden. You can even just go ahead and cut it once you feel confident that that you've got long enough of a tail there and that it's hidden. And you're done.